on the challenges that our nation faces overall. So we work every day to tackle complex threats and challenges that our nation faces, and try to see what we can do to impact as many people's lives as we can in a positive way. So our vision, pioneering for a better future. That's one of our kind of phrases that we use to define what we're going for. So it takes a lot of commitment and effort to, work with innovative ideas and collaborate with others to bring those to fruition. So we take a systems thinking approach, which means we take, our learnings for one area of our experience and apply it to other areas in a lot of new ways. So I'm going to be telling you some stories and giving some examples today of some of the bigger problems we're tackling with others in our nation. COVID-19 is one of them, cancer, and the great power competition. So these stories are going to give you a little bit of idea of how our team is committed to solving problems that impact our nation on a daily basis. So Mitre is a kind of a unique organization. It's a not-for-profit company. So unlike a lot of other contractors, we don't compete for contracts against companies like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. Those are some examples of other big government contractors. But again, we're a not-for-profit. So we work across government and in partnership with a lot of industry representatives to tackle challenges that are related to the safety, stability, and the well-being of the nation overall. So we have a unique position that allows us to work on and solve tough problems that a lot of others in the industry can't work on or won't work on just because there isn't a profit motive sometimes, or a realistic way to coordinate to get consensus on a solution. So a lot of our work is in that unique space where we're pursuing things that aren't necessarily something that will bring large profits, but because we're the type of organization we are, we can solve those challenges and bring solutions to the table. So we're really uniquely situated to work specifically for the public interest. So one example of that is we have this publicly freely available thing called the Attack Framework that helps organizations all over the world slow down cyber adversaries by letting them expose and track the tactics and techniques that attackers often use to infiltrate networks. So as the slide says, the goal is simple. We're looking to save lives. And like I mentioned earlier, one example of that is with COVID-19. So we're working with a lot of organizations, including the Mayo Clinic. We're leading the COVID-19 Healthcare Coalition, more than 1,000 members in that coalition in tech and healthcare delivery. And we're helping them to deploy resources where they're needed to analyze data. So back, around when COVID first started, it took a matter of weeks for Mitre to create 2 open source apps to help public health officials support individuals with COVID symptoms and contact tracing. So, and of course, we're helping to build the foundation for response to future pandemics as well. Another big initiative working on is obviously the fight against cancer. So one large area where Mitre is helping with that is through common data standards. So obviously there are tons of different types of hospitals and hospitals that use a lot of different technology across our nation. And there are actually over 15,000 different electronic health record systems in use today within those hospitals. And a lot of those are incompatible with one another, which makes it harder to share information that could save lives if it were better shared and better analyzed. So we've been putting together a common standard and language for oncology so that we can explore data from millions of patients and study the tons of combinations and comparisons for the treatment parameters that will allow us to provide insights on treatment for each patient. So that's another area that Mitre is having a large impact in. And of course, there's the Great Power Competition. I don't know if all of you have heard this term, but the Great Power Competition, kind of as it's defined today, started about the end of the Cold War or so. So the great powers, it will say, are competing in pretty much any capacity you can think of, right? There have been a lot of instances of intellectual property theft where our companies are having their intellectual property stolen and used elsewhere by other countries. You can think of things like your wireless provider, where your medications come from, right? Foreign countries all the time are looking to steal information and secrets in those areas to try to get ahead and expand their own influence on the world stage. So Mitre's helping a lot in this area with a variety of methods. One of those is kind of situational awareness tools for organizations to use that can show indicators of imbalance in different economic sectors. So health economics, healthcare, education, defense, telecommunications, research development, a lot of those areas. Mitre is providing situational awareness tools and indicators for helping with those situations. So another big area that we're helping with, which this picture alludes to, is supply chains. There's been a bit of a threat to our supply chains, not only for electronic supply chains, where we've seen attacks where circuit boards have had malicious chips and things placed on them before they get to the US, but also food, drug, medical equipment supply chains. That's been an area that's been really hurting, especially since the beginning of the pandemic, and something that both the US and countries all over the world are very dependent on is that international commerce and shipping. Of course, a lot of those comes from countries like China. So Mitre is helping to put together frameworks to make sure we can better secure those supply chains. And of course, we also do a lot of work in space as well. So many of you may not have guessed, but there are over 6,000, I believe at this point, satellites in orbit around the Earth. That's up from, I think it was like 400 just 5 to 10 years ago. So it's been growing very, very quickly. And NASA projects that daily flight command or daily flight demand for different levels of airspace, this includes air traffic as well as satellites in space, will grow from about 55,000 in 2020 to more than 2.5 million flights by 2025. So there's going to be a lot of congestion there that will need to be worked through, and Mitre's working on different methods to help with that and help reduce the number of miscoordination incidents between aircraft, space vehicles, or anything using the airspace. Because again, 55,000 to 2.5 million is quite a growth in daily flights. So definitely something that we're going to be having to deal with in the near future. So just a bit about our kind of differentiated value. A lot of companies in the US work on very big problems. This is kind of how Mitre differentiates themselves as far as how they want to deliver new ways of thinking and new approaches to problems. So obviously you've seen some examples here through, battling COVID, working on cancer treatment, improving and protecting the nation's economic and national security. And then, of course, working to keep that surface to space passage safe and viable so that we can have that increase to 2.5 million without a large increase in incidents along with that. I just wanted to share a little bit about our diversity statistics. This is something that Mitre is definitely keeping an eye on and trying to track so that we make sure we have representation from the US across the spectrum. So just wanted you all to kind of take a glance at this slide and see where we're at currently. And obviously we're proud of how kind of the advances that the organization's made in recent years, and obviously we want to continue to improve and do better. I also wanted to show this slide to show kind of the different partnerships and types of things we've been doing within Mitre to try to strengthen our team. So we've partnered with a lot of different educational organizations, universities, schools, and set up a lot of different internal Mitre councils. So you can see on the right side to try to make sure that we make sure that all of our potential experience and diversity is brought to bear on the problems that we face. Another thing that I wanted to have everyone take a look at is these federally funded research and development centers, or FFRDCs. So these are special types of organizations that promote that kind of independent, objective collaboration between industry and government to help solve those large scale problems. So Mitre actually operates 6 of these. You can see listed on the slide. I specifically work in the National Cybersecurity FFRDC, supporting the National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. So again, these are all special organizations that Mitre helps operate with the government to ensure that collaboration and allow us to tackle challenges that a lot of other organizations might not be able to help with. And, you know, like I mentioned before, one of the things that differentiates Mitre is, you know, why and how we pursue innovation in different areas. So again, Mitre is a not-for-profit. It's not our goal to increase market share, to get earnings for our shareholders, right? Our unique positioning allows us to make investments in areas that might not be feasible for-profit companies. And that's not a bad thing that for-profit companies, you know, can't do that because, you know, their structure is different. They have different goals than we do. So we kind of bridge a gap between government and industry that, again, we have a unique role to fill. And we're able to take risks that a lot of other companies aren't, and that allows us to make impacts that a lot of other companies can't. So again, as far as our impact goes, very broad scope here. One of the things I really enjoy about Mitre is the fact that we have so many different areas and, you know, technologies that we work with. And it's very flexible for me as, you know, someone who works within Mitre to be able to help in these different areas. I've been able to help in, you know, areas like 5G, network security, Internet of Things, just a wide variety of projects. And that's been really fun and interesting for me to work on. I also wanted to give you a little bit of Mitre history as well. So Mitre has actually been around for more than 60 years now. It was originally spun out of the MIT Lincoln Laboratories in order to help build the nation's first air defense system. So back, you know, around the time when DARPANET and the beginnings of the internet was a thing, Mitre helped create, you know, part of the initial internet with their network that was originally just built for air defense and help different stations around the U.S. communicate over that type of network. So it's got a very rich history, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Now a little bit about the Mitre internships. So one thing that I do want to mention is that Mitre ensures that all of its interns have impactful work. If you end up coming on board with Mitre as an intern, your work will be 100% on a mission-focused project, which means you're going to be having an impact on some real-world problems. We're not like those types of organizations that kind of put you on the side doing your own thing and give you some busy work, you know, just to learn things on their own. You're going to be learning on the job with some people who have been, you know, kind of know what they're doing, and we'll be able to help mentor you through the process. We also have a learning track program. So each summer we have 3 different learning tracks that our students are able to participate in and learn with other interns. So we've got learning tracks on artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, AI. So even if you don't have a lot of background in that area, and obviously we're expecting a lot of our students don't, we want to make sure that you have the knowledge you need in order to explore that area further if you think that's an area that you want to learn more about and make an impact in. We also have mentorship assignments set up. So if you would like, we don't require this, but if you would like, you can sign up for mentors. So we try to assign mentors. Let's say you're working with one team, we'll try to assign you a mentor from somewhere else within Mitre, so you can get different perspectives and learn more about the different areas that you might have interest in. We also have weekly virtual meetups with our interns. So, you know, throughout each week, depending on your interests, you'll be able to meet up with interns who are interested in a variety of different things, different game nights, things like that. And of course, contests and competitions, if any of you are in that kind of competitive mindset, because we find competition sometimes really helps promote creativity and innovation. So that's definitely one of my favorite parts of the summer. This one isn't as applicable to you, but just something to, you know, look forward to, if you will. Mitre does support early career professionals by myself pretty well, in my opinion. They provide a lot of opportunities for professional development. The work-life balance is something that is really important to me and a lot of others like myself within Mitre. And they actually have education assistance. So if you are working on an undergraduate or graduate degree, they will provide education assistance to help with those programs that you're looking for. And of course, ongoing mentor programs is something that's very valuable that I can't stress enough. But all right, any questions on that before we move on to my next slide deck? All right.
Yeah, Mr. Klosterman, we've got a couple questions in the chat, and I believe Tristan and a few others have raised their hands. I saw Tristan first, so why don't you start us off, Tristan, please?
Okay, Tristan. Yeah.
All right, thank you. First off, so you mentioned that there were multiple offerings for these learning tracks, and I was wondering if we have limited choosing one, focusing on that, and then using that development to apply to the company individually, or are we allowed to participate in multiple and keep our options open for our time with Mitre?
So that's a situation where, just due to the amount of interest, there's a limit on how many people can sign up for each track. So I would advise sign up for the one that you want to do a lot first, and then potentially if there's space in other tracks, you can also hop into those as well. But normally, again, we want everyone to have a chance to participate in the tracks that they are interested in. So we'll start off generally with just participate in one, and again, if there's space in others, then you're more than welcome to participate in those as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I appreciate it.
And Mr. Klosterman, I think I'm just kind of summarizing what's going on in the chat, and then maybe this might answer Rayanne's and Sneha's question as well. But were you planning on touching base a little bit more on some specifics of what an internship looks like for a high school student? What might be some qualifications and timing? Was that something you were going to touch on in your next slide deck? Okay.
I actually might, just looking at the time now, I might not dive into the second slide deck, but maybe I can speak to that a little bit now. And then we can kind of keep these questions rolling and make sure that I get everyone's questions answered instead of diving to another slide deck. How's that sound?
Yeah, that works. And that may actually answer some of Rayanne and Sneha's questions as well, and some people in the chat. So please go ahead. And then if we haven't touched on that, we can try to answer all questions in the time we have. So
okay, sounds good. So I'll talk a little bit about the internship process then. So our internships are fairly flexible as far as time range goes. Normally they'll run sometime in May till sometime in August or September. We really try to work with the students' schedule. So if your school ends mid-May or to the end of May or even into June, we can set your start date according to whenever you're comfortable with that. I usually recommend that you take at least a week off in between the end of school and the beginning of your internship. But it's up to you. If you feel like you want to stay busy and dive right in, that's your choice. Same thing with the end date as well. So we're fairly flexible on that. As far as the actual things that you're working on during the summer, there's a lot of options within Mitre. Cybersecurity is one big thing Mitre does, and there's a large range, whether you want to go offensive or defensive, or or space cyber, or electrical cyber. Right? There's a lot of different areas within there, and then of course it's not just cybersecurity; it's also data sciences, computer engineering. A lot of different options. So for those of you who are interested in looking more, just Google Mitre jobs. You'll find the Mitre job site. You can also Google, I think, Mitre students if you want to find more student-specific jobs and summer internships. So these are paid opportunities. I just saw a question in the chat. These are paid opportunities. Another question. Yes, we have a lot to do with networking. That's a significant component of my day-to-day work, is figuring out and solving network security related challenges. As far as the workload for students and what type of work you'll be doing, you'll normally be assigned to a project team. They'll kind of give you some time to get up to speed, help you figure out what the project is about, the goals of the project, and where you can kind of fit in and contribute. So it's really going to be based on how comfortable you feel with things and what kind of work you think you can do. So your task lead is what we call them, who will be assigning you tasks, will kind of talk to you and figure out what type of work you're comfortable with doing, and then kind of start giving you tasks based on your comfort level, right? And it's important to know that these are internships, right? We're not expecting you to come in knowing how to do everything. We're expecting you to come in with an expectation that you're going to be learning a lot, and just give it your best shot. And we'll teach you what you need to know along the way.
Thank you, Mr. Klosterman. I want to give Rayanna a chance to ask their question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Schaffer. So I was just curious, how do you apply and what are you looking for in an applicant?
Yeah, so as far as how to apply, so if you search up Mitre student jobs, that'll you'll be able to find the student page where we have a lot of our student listings. We generally don't have any high school specific jobs. The reason for this is we don't really the description might say like undergraduate or graduate. Generally, undergraduate positions can also be done by high school students as well. Again, we're not expecting to come in with a lot of experience most of the time. Obviously on your resume, if you've got some, experience doing some technical projects or things, some projects or research in the area that you're interested in, that's beneficial to add. Yeah, I guess as far as what specifically what we're looking for, it's really where your interests lie, right? So if you're interested in networking, for example, and you've done some things like, oh, you've set up a router or you've set up your own network or you've set up a server, put that on your resume so we can see where your interests are and maybe where you might be a good fit. As far as the applications there are a number of different internship opportunities there. There are some that are very specific. And then we have what we call our general or evergreen requisitions. These are the ones that are listed like computer science engineering internships, cybersecurity information science internships, things like that. So those ones are the more general ones you can apply to that aren't for one specific position, but that's where I and my intern coordination team that I work with pull a lot of our resumes from.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question.
Snea, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how big are your internship groups? Because I had an internship group last year and it was like a big group of 30. And I was wondering if you have like those smaller groups that focus on like really the topic of interest.
Yeah. So I would say that most of our times, like the number of interns you'll actually be working directly with on your project is probably going to be either yourself or maybe you or two interns, probably I would say is accurate. Now that doesn't mean that you'll just be alone, isolated from all the other interns, right? They'll all be around and you'll be able to see them at the different events that we have throughout the week. And obviously you can get up from your desk at any time and head over and talk to any of the other interns. But specifically on the projects, again, we're trying to make sure that you have a chance to make a significant contribution and impact to that project. So most of the time you'll be, as an intern, it'll be you or maybe you and one other intern on a project.
Thank you. I had one other question too.
Yeah, sure.
So what do some of these projects look like? Like what skills would you need to accomplish the projects in like the impactful internship?
Yeah, again, that all depends on your area of interest, right? Specifically, if I'm looking at a cybersecurity intern, for example, I want to, again, look at what types of interests and things, what have they done to explore their interests so far? So if it's networking, then I would really like to see like, hey, do they have any networking skills? Can I sit down with them in the lab and be like, here, let's set up this server, or hey, we're going to connect these two systems together so they can talk. So that's a big part of it, in my opinion, is just I really like to see those projects because I enjoy working on projects on the side myself, and I like to see what everyone else has been up to. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Let's see. I'm going to take one from the chat here.
Okay.
Sajana was asking, are we eligible to apply to all the internships that Mitre has, or is it the ones that specify reaching towards a high school diploma or maybe an undergrad?
I think I would say that the ones that specify high school, you might have a better chance at, but again, I think you should definitely apply to anything that you're interested in. Unless it specifically says graduate intern, graduate usually means if you're in a graduate degree program. So if you're going for your master's or PhD, so that might be a little out of reach for high schoolers, but I think most of our positions aren't, they might say undergrad, but if you have this relevant skills to that, what that project team is looking for, then you might get an interview.
Thank you. Lavelle, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Pertaining to the length of the internship, is it very like flexible, or is it strict? Like, can I come from like June to like August, or is it like a very strict schedule from like May
Yeah.
to August?
Yeah, it's very flexible. We try to base that all around your school schedule. So, if you get out of school, second week of June, then you can say, hey, I'll see if I can start third week of June, or maybe even fourth. Like I said, I like to recommend that people take a week break, so you get at least experience some of the summer without having your schedule full of work and different activities. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thanks for the question.
Let's see. Tristan, I'm going to give a few other people a chance to. Let me see here. We've got. I know that. Bruju, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just had a quick question. So, what does the typical day of an intern look like?
So a typical day of an intern, it really depends on whether we'll be back in person as far as the location. But if you're virtual, obviously you'll kind of get up in the morning and kind of after you've done all your morning routine and you're ready to start work, you'll sign on. And it's fairly dynamic from there. You might have some already assigned tasks that you want to get back to work on. Maybe you'll check in with your team, or maybe you'll just check in with some of the interns that you've been talking to, right? And then you'll kind of work on the tasks that you've been assigned. Again, maybe attend some meetings or go to some events, intern events that you've been wanting to go to. It's fairly dynamic, and you can really make your own schedule as long as you're meeting the expectations that your prior team has of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Let's see. I'm trying to see who's next on. Tristan, I know you had your hand up again for a while too.
So am I good to go then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So earlier you alluded to this different space opportunities and the different cyber applications of that. And I recall that the National Reconnaissance Office has its headquarters here in Loudoun County, and wonder if Mitre is doing any work with the NRO, and if that is an available opportunity for prospective interns.
Okay. I do know that we are doing a lot of work in that area, so I'm sure that we're engaged with the NRO in some capacity. But unfortunately, I personally can't speak to that. I'm not too in the loop on where that work is at currently and who we're more directly interacting with, if that makes sense. So unfortunately, I can't speak to that. I appreciate the question, though.
Okay, thank you.
Surya, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I was wondering, are most of the internships offered virtual, or will we be required to meet in person?
So that's yet to be decided. It's really going to depend on where we're at with COVID when the summer rolls around. The past couple years, it's been mostly remote, but there's potential to go back in person this summer if things improve, we'll say. But I can't say for certain. It'll just depend on where we're at later this summer.
Okay, thank you.
And Praneeth?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you guys take test scores like the PSAT or SAT into consideration when looking for applicants?
I don't believe we do a whole lot. I know some people list them on their resumes, but personally, that's not what I'm looking for when I'm looking at resumes. Like I said, personally, I prefer that those projects are relevant experience that you have that kind of shows where your interests lie, so I know what might be a good fit for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
We do have 2 minutes left. So I want to just also say a question that's come up a few times in the chat is some confusion over where exactly to apply. So Mr. Johnson in the site was able to add in the Mitre website that you can go to apply, but also we want to keep track of who's interested in what on the LCPS side. So please fill out both forms there, so we can keep track on our end too. I just want to hopefully that sends some clarification on where exactly to go.
Thanks, Grant.
And Rayanne, did you have another question?
Yeah, there's one more question. I'll make this quick. Are there any internship opportunities? I know you mentioned many of them. Are there any that are offered like maybe during the spring or fall, or is it all during the summer?
So it's mostly during the summer. There are some that go throughout, in the spring and fall as well. So you'll just have to keep your eye for those individual specific postings on the Mitre student job site. Something else that we do is if a student works over the summer and if they're interested in staying on over the school year to work maybe part-time on a project that has the available capacities for them to work on. That is something that I did over my 2 years as a intern with Mitre. I worked throughout the school year, just a few hours a week here and there. But as far as like full-time 40-hour a week type of work, that really just depends on if a project team has a posting available for that. But they do exist.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then we'll finish questions with Anish.
Yeah, hi. I'm just wondering if there will be interviews for vetting, applicants for an internship position, and how will like the interviews be? Will they cover technical knowledge as well as soft skills necessary in a work setting?
Yeah. So we've been doing those interviews probably since last fall until now, and those will be continuing, probably for the next month or so at least. So yeah, those interviews are happening, and they will they can contain soft skills, technical questions. Usually those interviews are done by people on the individual projects that you'll be working on, or someone close to those projects at least. So you might have one interview with one team, and you might have another interview with another team, and they'll ask you different questions because they may be looking for people with different skills or different experiences.
And another question, will there be stages of interviews? So, or will it just be one interview before you get into the company?
It really depends. For me personally, it's generally just one interview. But if another team decides they want to have a second interview so you can talk to some additional people that are on the team or something like that, that does happen too.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Okay, I will put the link in again for the form, but Mr. Klosterman, thank you for the slide deck, all the questions, all the answers that you gave, and the clarification. Students, thank you for being on here, asking a lot of great questions too. I know I enjoyed learning more about Mitre too. Mr. Johnson, thank you for helping manage the chat as well. I'll put that link in there too. Don't forget, Sked has the link to the slide deck as well. So if you need to catch up on things before the recording, please do that. So again, thank you, Mr. Klosterman, on behalf of the students, and a lot of them are putting a lot of thanks your way in the chat too. So I appreciate your time and your patience with all the questions too.